The Vatican is worth an estimated $2 trillion, making it one of the richest entities in the world. So how does a tiny city-state have more wealth than most countries? It's not just about donations from churchgoers. The Vatican has a long history of financial secrets, clever business moves, and even shady deals. So how did the Vatican transform from a religious center into a financial powerhouse? To answer that, let's go back to the early days. Back in the early days, the Vatican wasn't always this wealthy. In fact, it was once struggling to get by. The Catholic Church was just another religious group. They relied on donations from believers, and the church's leaders were more focused on spreading the faith than building wealth. But as the influence of the church grew, so did its ambitions. By the 4th century, Christianity became the official religion of the Roman Empire. This gave the Vatican more power and wealth. They received gifts of land, money, and art from emperors and wealthy followers. Over time, the Vatican learned how to manage these gifts smartly. They used the wealth to build grand churches, support the clergy, and expand their influence. This was just the beginning of the Vatican's financial status to unimaginable riches. One of the most controversial ways the Vatican built its wealth was through the sale of indulgences. This practice started around the Middle Ages. The idea was simple. If you sinned, you could pay the church to reduce the time you or your loved ones would spend in purgatory. It was like buying a fast pass to heaven. At first, indulgences were granted for doing good deeds, like going on a pilgrimage. But as the church saw the money rolling in, they realized it could become a profitable business. Soon, indulgences were sold for money. People paid large sums to get their sins forgiven. The church claimed this money was used for good purposes, like building churches and funding religious missions. However, many believed it was just a way to fill the Vatican's coffers. This practice caused a lot of anger and eventually led to the Protestant Reformation, where people like Martin Luther spoke out against the church's greed. The Vatican used people's fear of hell to grow its wealth and basically turned the spiritual beliefs into a business model. In addition to its religious influence, the Vatican once controlled a significant amount of land known as the Papal States. These were territories in Italy under the direct rule of the Pope. The Papal States were more than religious states. They were a political and economic powerhouse. The Vatican acted like a kingdom, collecting taxes, enforcing laws, and even raising armies. The income from these lands provided the Vatican with a steady flow of money. With this, the Pope became more than a spiritual leader. In fact, he was also a powerful ruler. The Papal States allowed the Vatican to wield political influence and maintain its independence. However, in the 19th century, the Italian unification movement led to the loss of these territories. The Vatican's political power was reduced, but the wealth and influence it gained during this period was huge. But even the Vatican had faced financial trouble. In the 19th century, the Vatican found itself in a serious money crunch. The loss of the Papal States left them without a steady income, and they were struggling to pay their bills. That's when the famous Rothschild banking family came into the picture. The Vatican turned to the Rothschilds for help, asking for a loan to keep their operations running. Although they had differences in religion and beliefs, the Rothschilds agreed, knowing it would be a profitable venture. This partnership gave the Vatican the financial boost it needed at that time. Soon the Vatican realized the importance of financial stability, so it started investing in the secular market. One of their main interests was real estate. The Vatican began buying valuable properties in major cities like London, Paris, and even New York. These investments weren't just about owning land. The real purpose was securing a stable income. Real estate became a steady source of revenue for the Vatican, helping them fund their various projects and maintain their influence. But it didn't stop at real estate. The Vatican also invested in stocks, bonds, and other financial instruments. It diversified its investments, and with that, the Vatican was able to protect itself against financial downturns. Then came the era of the World Wars. The two World Wars were challenging times for many, including the Vatican. However, the wars didn't really affect the Vatican that much because of their strategic alliances. During World War I, the Vatican maintained a neutral stance, avoiding taking sides. This neutrality allowed them to continue their operations without direct threats. But it was during World War II that the Vatican's strategic thinking really stood out. The Vatican signed the Lateran Treaty with Mussolini's Italy in 1929, creating the independent Vatican City and securing a large financial settlement. This agreement not only gave the Vatican political independence, but also provided a significant cash infusion. During the war, the Vatican used its neutral status to act as a mediator and safe haven, which helped protect its assets. They also moved their investments to safer locations, so even in times of global conflict, the Vatican found ways to safeguard its interests and continue growing its wealth. As the Vatican's financial activities grew, they realized they needed a more formal way to handle their money. In 1942, the Vatican Bank, also known as the Institute for the Works of Religion (IOR), was established. The main purpose of the IOR was to manage the Vatican's funds and support its religious and charitable works. However, the Vatican Bank also became really powerful in the financial world. It started investing in international markets and managing assets worth billions of dollars. The IOR provided a way for the Vatican to keep its financial dealings private, away from the eyes of the world. It allowed them to conduct transactions securely and manage their wealth with greater control. But with this power came controversy. Over the years, the Vatican Bank has been accused of money laundering and other shady dealings. Still, the IOR remained an essential part of the Vatican's financial empire, and its creation allowed it to blend faith with the complexities of modern banking. Now, onto the big question: how much wealth does the Vatican really have? The Vatican often says it's struggling with money, but some reports suggest it's much richer than it lets on. In 2021, the Catholic Church claimed it had low reserves and was running at a loss. But if you look deeper, things seem different. In Australia alone, the church is thought to be worth at least $30 billion, more than big companies like Starbucks. If we do a simple calculation, the church's total wealth could be over $2 trillion worldwide. This is based on estimates like $5,454 per Catholic in Australia. With about 372 million Catholics in Western countries, that adds up fast. Even a small 3% return on $2 trillion would mean $60 billion a year. And that's without paying taxes. But in 2018, the Vatican only reported a $20 million profit. So, is the Vatican hiding its true wealth? What do you think about these numbers? Is the Vatican richer than it says? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like, subscribe for more stories about history, money, and power. See you in the next video.